President Trump's massive tax and spending bill that he now calls the ultimate codification of his agenda is facing a new and real setback this morning. The top rules official in the Senate, known as the parliamentarian, and analyzes legislation passing through the chamber, stepped in and said some of this doesn't work because of the fast track method that the Republicans are trying to use with this mega bill. It comes with strings attached to avoid a Democratic filibuster. And this parliamentarian says some of the provisions violate budget rules, including a key provision that would make cuts to Medicaid. All told, this could mean hundreds of billions of dollars in the spending cuts in the bill would be eliminated from the bill, a bill that's already on shaky ground with a handful of Senate Republicans who are needed to get this over the finish line. Still, here was Trump yesterday.
I shouldn't say this, but we don't want to have grandstanders where one or two people raise their vote. We don't know, and they do it to grandstand. That's all. Not good people. They know who I am, who I'm talking about. I call them out, but we don't need grandstanders.
Just into CNN, President Trump, we've learned, will be staying in Washington this weekend, a rare move for the president to continue to put pressure on Senate Republicans to pass the bill by the July 4th deadline that he has imposed. Joining us right now, CNN political commentator, former Trump campaign advisor David Urban, and Matt Bennett, a Democratic strategist, former official in the Clinton administration. It's really good to see you guys. David, Politico called it one big, beautiful mess this morning. If hundreds of billions in spending cuts needs to be now cut out of the bill or replaced with other cuts in some other way, how do Republicans make the case that this is thought through, carefully analyzed, all the things, and contains a good deal?
Well, Kate, I think that's where they got to. How they got to where they are today, by thinking it through and looking at all these different provisions. As you highlighted, the Senate parliamentarian looked at it very closely to make sure that it didn't violate the Byrd rule, right, on legislating on a spending bill, and so every single piece of this bill has been thought about, and that's why we are today where we are in terms of many of these senators not wanting to vote for the overall package because they have issues with different pieces. The Medicaid provider tax on some, the revenge tax on others leaves a big hole in the budget. So I think the president's going to get his bill. I just don't think it's going to happen before the July 4th recess. I do think, however, they will get this done. I think they're going to have to do some more arm twisting, some more negotiating, and some more debating on these different provisions. But I think they'll get it done. Getting it done by over the weekend is going to be very, very difficult just because of the amount of issues to get resolved in the short period of time. But I do think he'll get it done.
David Urban with a much needed slice of reality check when it comes to this deadline. And just to reiterate for everyone, there was no reason for July 4th other than Donald Trump wanted it. And look, a self-imposed deadline when it comes to Congress sometimes is needed. Go ahead, David.
I would just say the only reason to use July 4th is that's the only way to get the Congress to act on many things, right? You got to back it up against the holiday where people want to go home and visit their families and constituencies. And so if you don't back it up against a major holiday like this, the House and Senate continue to churn forever, it seems. So this is done quite frequently in the Congress. You put a big bill against a backdrop of a recess where people want to go home and go on and see their families. So July 4th, the next one will be August. Recess will be coming up, and that's when the X date will be there as well in terms of the debt ceiling. So I've always said this bill is going to pass, but I think it passes in before the August recess, not before July.
Matt, the parliamentarians frustrated majorities of both parties throughout the years, of course, in trying to move legislation forward. As Republicans try to figure this out amongst themselves, what do you see in this roadblock?
Well, look, this, as you say, this is a very familiar place for both parties. I well remember Democratic frustration with the same parliamentarian, Elizabeth McDonough, when Democrats were trying to legislate, a single-party bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was the big climate bill under Biden, and a bunch of things that we wanted in there came out because they didn't comport with the rules. I think David's probably right that they're not going to get it done by July 4th, but Trump has such control over this party that I would guess that they do get this bill across the finish line. But I think the important thing here is what's in it, what remains in it, even after the Byrd bath. And what remains is very, very bad for America, and ultimately is going to be very bad for Republicans. They're going to throw 12 million people off their health care to give a gigantic tax cut to wealthy people. The poorest Americans are going to see their overall income cut by 4%, by $1,600, and the wealthy are going to get a giant tax cut. The middle class basically get nothing, about $500 a year, less than 1% of their income. So this is bad politics, and it is bad policy. And, I think Republicans probably should take this time to reflect on whether this is where they want to go.
David, one aspect of the Iran situation that I wanted to ask you both about is some new CNN reporting that's coming in about behind-the-scenes diplomatic efforts that have been ongoing to try to get things moving with Iran, even before and after the strikes. Here's the reporting. The Trump administration has discussed possibly helping Iran access as much as $30 billion to build a civilian energy-producing nuclear program, easing sanctions, freeing up billions of dollars in restricted Iranian funds, all part of an intensifying attempt to bring Tehran back to the negotiating table. This is from 4 sources familiar with the matter. That reminded me when I read this of how much Trump accused Obama of essentially paying off Iran, vilifying him for allowing Iran to access restricted funds. Here is a reminder.
We gave him 150 billion, gave him 1.8 billion, and we got nothing. Look at what they did to John Kerry and to President Obama. Look what happened, where they're bringing plane loads of cash, plane loads, big planes, 757s, Boeing 757s, coming in loaded up with cash. What kind of a deal is that?
If allowing Iran access restricted funds, and you can get into the details of fact-checking it, but we won't, but just essentially allowing Iran access to funds is bad then, what gives now, David?
Well, Kate, I think what gives is there are 3 giant craters in the earth in Iran, which occurred because of Donald Trump's bold military action and crippling the Iran nuclear program. They are severely crippled in terms of their ability to produce a nuclear weapon. And so I think that's what's changed in the time. They no longer have the same abilities they had during the Obama administration as they have today.
Matt?
I mean, it's the same thing we saw with Trump about Obama before. Like, he threw out the NAFTA deal that Democrats had helped negotiate, and then basically cut the same deal with Mexico and Canada. This is what he does. But I will say, look, if they are really degraded in their ability to create nuclear weapons, that is good. It is clear that the American military performed extraordinarily well, but we don't know yet. And Trump, his main priority is getting credit for everything. That's what this has been about for the last 3 days.
Well, let us see. The House lawmakers are going to get their classified.
I love that Matt agreed with me on both of these.
I would say agree-ish. I think we could leave it at agree-ish on this fabulous Friday with these 2 wonderful men. Thank you, guys. It's great to see you. Oh, DC and Nantucket, David Urban, always living a better life than me. Thanks, guys. Sarah.